Before we dive into today's conversation, I have an exciting reminder for all my fellow designers and decorators. If you're ready to take your interior design business to the next level in 2025, the Profit Academy for Interior Designers is open and ready when you are. This 6-week online course is designed to help you increase your profits, take control of your business, and charge what you are truly worth. The best part? You can do it at your own pace. So whether you need it to fit into your busy schedule or you're ready to dive in and start making changes today, the Profit Academy is ready for you. With the Profit Academy, you will get a step-by-step roadmap to running a profitable design business, proven price strategies to increase confidently and profitably charge for your time and your designs, templates, worksheets, real-world tools to streamline your workflow, and the flexibility to complete the course on your schedule, because your business should work for you and not the other way around. If you're ready to get started, head to the link in the show notes, and in just 6 weeks, you could be running a more profitable and efficient design business. Now, let's get ready to talk to today's incredible guest. Hi there, interior design lovers. Welcome back to the Business of Beautiful Spaces, the podcast where we blend design inspiration with all behind-the-scenes tips and tricks you need to thrive in your business. I'm your host, Laura Thornton, and with over 27 years in this interior design game and running a 7-figure design company, trust me, I've seen it all. I want to be your interior design bestie. I want to help you build the business of your dreams, make more money, and yes, ditch the stress along the way. I've been doing this for a long time, and now I'm sharing my knowledge with all of you, my fellow designers and decorators. All I ask in return is that you like, review, and follow this podcast wherever you listen so other designers can find us and learn more too. So grab a coffee, get comfy, and let's dive into making 2025 your best business year yet. Today on the Business of Beautiful Spaces, I had the privilege of sitting down with someone who has carved out a bold, creative path in our industry and continues to show up as both a powerhouse and a community builder. Carly Nemtean is the principal designer and co-founder of Carriage Design Build, a firm known for its beautifully curated spaces that resonate deeply with clients the moment they walk in. With nearly 2 decades of design experience under her belt, Carly's work has been featured in top publications like House & Home, Style at Home, Toronto Life, and the Globe and Mail. She is also the recipient of the prestigious NKBA 30 Under 30 Award, a reflection of her entrepreneurial drive and design-forward mindset. But Carly didn't stop at just design. As a young mom and full-time business owner, she saw a gap in the creative industry, a need for connection, support, and shared resources. And that's what led to the founding of the collective Workspace, located in Toronto, a thriving community hub that has become so much more than a co-working space. It's a launchpad for collaboration, a source of inspiration, and most importantly, a reminder that we are strong when we create together. Carly's leadership there has been centered on making room for growth, conversation, and innovation in an industry that can sometimes feel isolating, or for a lot of us, all the time. So in this episode, Carly and I have been open and having an honest conversation, no scripts, no filters. And there wasn't even really a name for this episode. It was really just a sit down between two designers in the industry and discussing the shift from post-COVID, the never-ending talks of tariffs looming, and many designers feeling the pressures of this unpredictable economy that we're tackling with real questions. So what happens when the design highs slow down? And how do we keep moving forward with the uncertainty that's really on the forefront right now? And this episode isn't about offering polished solutions. It's just about reminding you that you're not alone. So if you have been quietly wondering if others are feeling what you're feeling, you're in the right place. So grab your coffee, settle in. Let's talk about the realities of running a design business right now in 2025, because sometimes just knowing that we're in this together is exactly what we need. Before we dive in, I am so excited to share a special invitation with all of you that on May 13th, 2025, from 9:30 until 12, we are teaming up with the incredible team at Decor-Rest for a fabulous Designers Day at their showroom and their factory located in Woodbridge, Ontario, and you're invited. So we are going to kick things off by connecting with fellow designers over a delicious continental breakfast. Yes, the coffee and all the yummies are included. Followed by a special presentation from yours truly, Laura Thornton, where I am going to bring you information on strategies for building a profitable interior design business, because you know I am all about helping you turn your creativity into revenue. So then we're going to be inspired as the Decor-Rest team gives us a peek into all the latest trends straight from High Point and the Milan furniture market. Think exclusive insights that you will not find anywhere else because they will have just returned from doing both of those shows. And you'll also get an exclusive tour of their plant and their showroom so you can see firsthand the craftsmanship that Adelia and I talk about today. And that goes into each and every piece of furniture they make. And to top it all off, because Decor-Rest is so generous, there are prizes and a little post-event social time to connect, chat, and celebrate the amazing design community that we are all a part of. So here's the deal. Seats are limited, and trust me, the Mazzilli family at Decor-Rest goes all out for these events, and they plan everything based on the RSVP count. So if you sign up, please, please, please show up. They truly put their hearts into these gatherings, and it'll be absolutely lovely to see all of you there. So please come for the breakfast, stay for the inspo, and leave with ideas and maybe even a prize that you could take your business to the next level. So I really hope that we get to see you in Woodbridge on May 13th. I will have everything in the show notes of who you need to contact to secure your seat. Welcome back to the Business of Beautiful Spaces. Hi, Carly. How are you?
Hi, I'm great. How are you?
I'm good. Thank you for joining me today. I know that we've been chatting for 30 minutes before we hit record, so you're probably already sick of this, but I'm going to ask you to quickly tell the listeners the beginnings of your interior design journey and how you started.
Yes, so I about 17 years ago, 20 years ago, graduated from Sheridan College, interior design, went into the industry, worked for a few designers, and then ended up working for a millwork shop. Really enjoyed it, but found it really challenging. And when I'm working there, I started connecting with, one of the clients was a television show, and they were looking for a designer for a new series called Property Brothers. And so I auditioned to be like the designer for episodes. And the producer hired me and said, like, this is a part-time position. So you can still work your full-time job at the millwork firm that you're working with, and then you can work part-time, like off hours. Long story short, I ended up working like two full-time jobs, and like part of the part of the opt-in was that I have to bring in my own trades, my own millwork, my own counters, my own fabricators, my own everything. And luckily my boss at the time ran their own millwork shop, and they also had a fabrication shop attached, and they did commercial and like some really minimal residential projects, but they did like large scale projects like the GO stations, the airport extension, LCBOs, like very, like through tender. And so I went to them and said, listen, I have this opportunity to do these shows. It's a great way to kind of marry all of your assets and have consistent work for, for the next 6 months, let's say, and I can still work full time and do what I do and do this on the back end. So we started doing it, and obviously, like I said, you're working two full-time jobs. They saw how much opportunity there was with it, but also it was a really difficult process just because I was dropping the ball on other things, and so my boss came to me and said, listen, like, I think you have a lot of potential. It's just you need to pick. You need to choose. Like, do you want to work full time here, or do you want to leave and like open up your own firm and really focus on this? Because I think like this is definitely the direction that like you're being pushed in, but you decide. Um, and like, can I come along for the ride? Like, can we partner, and then like I can bring this component, you can bring this component, and like 50-50, like your efforts yield and my efforts yield, etc. So yeah, so it was a really scary time. I was 26, imagine. And I said okay and jumped kind of like one foot at a time into this new position. And, we were lucky. I mean, I was lucky. I had someone who, was 15, 16 years in the industry, already had, their own business, their own, accounting, their own like things set up, and was able to really mentor. And we had like built-in clients through the show, and we ended up working with Potter Brothers for 5 years. We did about, I think, like 36 episodes. And then in TV, everyone kind of just piggybacks on top of everyone else. So then I ended up working on like a bunch of other shows as the lead designer and the contractor, or just the designer. Um, and stayed in that industry for about 6, 7 years. But it was very taxing, and it was like back to back to back to back to back to back. And the clients were starting now to, once we did like 1 or 2 rooms, they end up getting us to do like the rest of the house, or the second floor, or the backyard, or their next house. And 90% of our clients are repeat and referral clients. So it was just a great opportunity to get our feet wet, build our portfolio in that area, and just like, run with it. So so that company is called Carriage Lane Design Build, and it's still operating. We're still business partners. But about 7 years ago, I was getting bored, as you do, as one woman does. And I just felt that I need something to challenge me. And I'm just like, I'm not loving like our office. Like, I was growing in the space of the building that my partner owned with a few other partners. And that's where the millwork shop was, the fabrication shop was. And we were able to, curate our costs as the team grew from like myself to 2 staff, 3 staff, 4 staff. By that time, we were probably about 7 staff in office, and then about 6, 7 guys in the field. But I was getting bored just in terms of like the story, and just like the challenge, the story, the ending. And it was just, I needed something to,
repeat and rinse.
yeah, repeat and rinse. And like, I just needed something to really be bigger than myself, and really, go past myself, versus like me having to be the day-to-day in the business. I wanted to kind of take a step out of it. So yeah, so I went on this magical journey of opening up a space called the Collective Workspace. We launched it in 2019 at the Interior Design Show. And we were in the B2B booth, and we got like the very last spot about 2 weeks before the show started. And we decided to pitch this concept that we worked the last 2 years on, which was opening up a co-working space for designers and architects and other people in the shelter industry. And, have a library, a design library, have offices, have boardrooms, have rentable areas. And so we pitched at the design show, and we had built-in fans. Like, people got it. If they're in the industry, they understood it. They like connected with it. And at that point, we were able to really raise money and go to investors. And we raised about 1 million in investment. We use that towards, obtaining a building, investing in the infrastructure, building out the program, building like hiring on staff, and a runway for once we open the doors. And yeah, I mean, it was an amazing experience. We opened up the doors. We actually pre-sold spaces, and we've been operating now for 5 years. We are in the design district of Toronto, around Caledonia and Lawrence. And it's been really interesting, because once we open up our doors, we were open for about 4 or 5 months, and I think we had about a 300% growth within the first 4 months of opening. And COVID hit.
I knew. Yeah, as soon as you said 2019, I'm like, yes, I know where this is going.
It's so interesting though, because it's like a part of everyone's story in many ways, because it really changed the trajectory of everyone's, or at least like minimized their goal and it just was like a yo-yo, right? Like we didn't lose a ton of members, we kept them, but we weren't able to really grow at a significant rate. We weren't able to host events. We weren't able to rent our space for events. We weren't able to, um, you know, build community in the way that was impactful. We weren't able to grow our library, and like the vendor program really was hard to maintain because you're not able to have people in the space. So how are people, seeing the vendors, seeing the products? And COVID really changed also how designers source and how they spec products now. And they're hiring staff members who are just doing it on the computer and ordering through online or different marketplaces. And so the the way that designers source now is very, very different pre-COVID. Um, and so we had to obviously pivot and change our business model and understand and be patient. And, I had two babies during COVID,
Because you weren't busy
like
enough.
I wasn't busy enough. Um, and we also during COVID launched when the library became one that was really difficult to track. And we started to realize, like as you build, realizing, okay, like what are some of the kinks in the chain, right? Like what worked on business plan versus what actually worked in reality. And then also adding like real life situations, and managing aspects and just like how do vendors work with the program? How do they connect with the designers? Like, so we had to work through all these issues on like all so many different levels. And what we decided to do is actually launch our own brand and introduce it into the market so that not only can we start building out our own brands and rebuilding that library, but also have more skin in the game and really understand what our efforts yield when it comes to, especially with the sense of exclusivity. Because for us, a lot of brands were like, well, how can I manage and focus on the ROI and understand what the ROI is as being a vendor in your space? Because, it's like a magazine. You don't know who sees the brand, it's brand awareness. But, in 2019, 2020, when everything is closed, like they really didn't want to understand like where our efforts are yielding, right? And no one wanted to put the money out in order to make those investments because everything shifted and everyone's online now, right? So how did like what they had invested in prior, like obviously has changed, which is understandable. So
I
we
just want to
start,
interject to
yeah,
explain, just in case other people don't know, that your collective is not only a collective of workspace and office space, hoteling space, but you also offer the ability for designers to use your space as a sourcing. When you're saying the library, they can come in and have access to lines and things that they wouldn't have if they were working from home. And they can come in and use your library as almost like a one-stop shop for all things that they need for any element of the project. And then further to that, you're now building out your own because you saw a need or what was lacking and what designers were looking for. Because I know that I get what you're doing, but just in case somebody hasn't heard of it just yet,
yes,
that this is what you're doing in addition to a collective workspace. It's also adding more value to the community by allowing people to come in and use your space and use your contacts and use your vendors as a way to not have to be running all over the city to house the items. You're saving time, they're meeting other designers, they're becoming part of your community, they're using your space as a hub, which I know we're going to get into, but I just wanted to give it a little bit more context because you just referenced the library and then it's like, I just wanted to make sure people
okay,
understood what that
yeah.
meant. So sorry to interrupt you, but I'll let you keep going with your new line of carpets and things that are fabulous.
Oh, no, so yeah, so I mean, just to yeah, so with that, we have, all these different vendors so that not just for people to come off the street, but also for people who are working from home, who are members, are very focused in the design architecture community. And it's like, do we all need to have a design library with all the same things? Like, can we not pool our resources and be able to minimize, you know, like all the samples that we're just burning through for no reason? And also like, do you want to pay to house all these things, or would you rather like maximize your space, minimize your cost, and like pool those resources? Um, so and also like with the vendors, like we outfitted the space with the different like partners that we, built the space out with, right? So light fixtures and plumbing fixtures. We really worked with Robinson Plumbing and Lighting, and like they have turned into like a partner of ours, and we host events with them, and we do other aspects of with them, and we have, Caesar Stone that came in as a partner and did all of our counters and did all of our backsplashes. Um, and so, Rockpile came in, did all of our millwork. And so it's like we're able to feature these vendors now in front of the community that are already sourcing from them. And it becomes like a full synergetic, a synergy aspect. And the library is also even just for the members who have space here, right? It's for the people who have offices or flex memberships. So we have 4 different tiers of membership. And so anything from just a drop-in day pass to an executive suite that's, you turn into your own. We have hub desks and 2 and 4 person furnished suites so that they're again move-in ready. So it just gave designers and people in our industry, instead of having to make the jump into taking an office, renovating it, or working from home, there's something in between that helps them on their feet, helps them minimize their investment, especially not knowing, where what the future has in store. And it just becomes, more flexible, more tangible, right? Especially when you're at the beginning of your career or even at the end of your career. We have such a vast difference of designers and professionals here. So yeah, so we opened up, so a few years ago we launched something, a rug line, modern rug line called named Palm, Paum. And with that program, we really like took the whole most of the library and really focused our efforts on selling that product, on designing that product, on collaborating on that product, on doing, R&D on that product, tested out different things and like really tried to focus all our energy on that. And we've seen amazing growth in that. And again, it's like through all of our efforts. I think that right now, like I'm going to be focusing on not extending the line out more, like because I'm trying to just focus and direct. And
Right.
so recently, actually, in January, I have recently left Carriage Lane. Not like I'm still a partner. I'm just like left the day to day. We have staff and my business partner who's kind of running the day to day in terms of dealing with clients, managing sales, client interaction. Like I've designing, I've really taken myself out so I can fully engage with collective and Palm, because I know that when I put my energy into something, I know the success it yields. And unfortunately, as business owners, it's hard to recognize that you are the biggest bottleneck. And so, you know, you can't do everything. And I realized that a long time ago, but it just really hit home this year or last year, I should say. So, I really had to take, a strong stance in that. And my partner was very great about it. Like he understood, like we've been having these talks for a few years now. But finally like we were at a point in our business where like we have a change in projects that I can now like nicely jump out.
Well, you must have some seriously well-run processes, right? And once you have your processes well-run, it does
We
allow
have,
you to.
yeah, we have very good processes. We have great staff members. And right now we have like very great clients. And again, like one of the reasons why I got bored is because it's like we got like
Rote. Yeah, you're doing the same thing over and over, and this
it's like
allows you
there's
to
no
use your
problem
brain
we
in a different
can't
way.
like,
Yeah,
you know what I mean? Like
yeah.
it goes through, and
Well,
like Rocco's like really been great at like jumping in and being the sounding board for the design staff from like the construction end and from like the business day to day and like expectations. And he's very well grounded and he's great with clients and yeah, so
it
it's great.
works.
Like I'm not mentally bothered by it right now. Like it's not mentally drawing on me. We haven't like told like clients this, obviously. They just
Well, good thing they're not listening to this podcast. You're fine.
exactly. Like I haven't announced it on social or anything. It's just it's more for like other designers and architects to know about. But
Well, and that's the thing.
um,
When you and I were talking about this last week when we were yapping, and I was saying, it's interesting after so many years of building our businesses, and they are running in a way that, we've built these processes and we have good team members that you can walk, you can go on a vacation, you can take a leave of absence and everything can still run. But what has been really interesting, what we connected on was like I started this podcast, which then started, getting feedback from other designers and what's missing and the questions they have. And I'm assuming that you also have your finger on the pulse because you're surrounded by designers and decorators all day at the collective, that you're really getting a
yeah.
feel for what's missing. And all that information and all that community is allowing you to figure out what they need and how to get those needs to the designer, which we're using, even though it's still our wheelhouse, you're just using a different part of your brain and it's a different challenge. And with that, it's exciting. It's exciting to learn something new.
Yeah, it is exciting. Although I will say, I think what I realized what I love so much about interior design, or still love, is that like, every 3 months or every 6 months, like you have a new challenge, you have a new project, you have a whole new client, you have a whole new style, depending. And so that change of frequency, I think is really good. That's what I gravitate to because like I don't have the bandwidth to like, like I pass it off.
Yeah.
It's like the staff, like, okay, now you deal with this. Um,
Well, and now it
so-
seems to be 5 years. Like you brought up COVID 2019. Now we're in 2025 and we're going through something that feels very COVID-esque.
yeah,
With the tariff talks and a big shift of what's happening in our industry, and everybody's kind of having the same conversations like we did with COVID, where you could spend the day on every conversation starts off with, okay, what do we have to explain about tariffs to our clients, to our vendors, like there's so many things about those parallels that for me it feels very 2020 with everything
I
that's going
know.
on right now. And I mean, I know a
I
lot
mean,
of designers.
have you explained anything to your clients?
Yes, but thankfully, prior to this, I've always been very much pro Canadian product. So all of our, like, majority of our products are Canadian made, which is super. I mean, of course, there's some that are not, and we're going to navigate through that. But again, we had vendors here today, fabric vendors. And they're like, none of our stuff comes from. So it's just figuring out who you're going to be using and who you're going to move forward with in order to help your client's budget and yourself for that matter. You know, Otters, as they say, using our
Have
brain in a very different way.
Have you seen the list of like what the items are?
I did go on the government list, but I feel like it's still obviously there's a lot of balls in the air, but some of it doesn't, like a fabric wasn't on there unless it's changed again.
Yeah.
I know that a lot of the case goods are, like if you're buying out of High Point, you're buying wood, those would be on there. Um, Lighting will be on there, but it depends on where it was. It's not
You
just,
saw it? You saw lighting on there?
no, I was talking to one of our vendors in the US and they were explaining their side of it, which I also
So
need
this
to.
is the thing. I will
Everybody,
say,
yeah, there's a
everyone
lot
is
of
hearing
different
about the third.
interpretations.
Everyone's hearing about it third party. I've not seen anything come through of like these are the
Oh,
items
it's
and
on
this
the
is
government
the package. Yeah.
Canada.ca or whatever. You can find it. You can read through the whole $29 billion. But again, is that going to be the same tomorrow?
I
I don't
mean,
know.
I personally haven't had any conversations with any clients except for
Oh,
one.
okay. Yeah.
Because like I don't even it just is changing on the daily. It's kind of like COVID where it's like that first like month, everyone was just like, I don't know. Like
Yeah.
I don't know. Like everyone was just like, so
Yeah.
it's like I'm not even like I don't even know what to react to because I don't know what is even gonna stick. Um, and right now they're just like having like a pissing contest at this point. Um,
Well, end of
So
January when this all started, I will tell you that I lost three large projects because whether I shouldn't say
yeah, you
lost,
told me
but
that
they have been
actually.
pumped the brakes because
Yeah.
my ideal client is somebody who owns their own business. They are busy, which means this was affecting their businesses and they didn't know how that was going to affect their business. And it's clearly affected everybody's investments and retirement funds, and that's
Yeah.
scary.
Well,
And so, they
yeah.
just said we need to just wait this out a bit. And so, of course, I go into a wee bit of panic when I've lost three good sized projects.
Yeah.
And then the emails started with people who didn't understand what tariffs meant. So that was a little bit annoying, but clearly it's settling. And I think it's that unknown factor. And then the last 2 weeks, I feel like all these old clients, new clients, we've just been inundated for the last 2 weeks with more jobs again. So it's this weird ebb and flow. It's this wild ride of entrepreneurship that we're all riding at all times because you never know what's going to come and what's going to go. But I like to be positive and just think that whatever is happening is making way for something more fabulous because that's what I have to go with right now. But it is
Yeah.
wild because we're coming off a high. Like COVID was, everyone hated their houses. They were spending too much time and designers were busy. I was exhausted,
I
burnt
know. We
out.
were our best. I think I told you when we spoke. I mean, my best year in business was a year and a half ago. My worst year in business was last year.
But a lot of
Like,
vendors will tell you guys that too. Like if you have vendors in your offices or talking to anyone who's listening, they will tell you that they had stellar, record-breaking years because we were
yeah.
all in demand. And now
Yeah.
they have these impossible sales figures to try and hit,
Yeah.
which they can't hit. Like, and but our vendors are still supposed to be making these high levels of numbers, but we're not as busy. So how are they able to sustain those sales numbers?
So the
It's all
scary
of us.
thing, the scary thing is like it's all like it's like a domino effect, right? So like right now, like the last, I don't know, like even the last like 6 months, for example, right? Like last 8 months, like no one's starting any jobs, no one's like betting on anything, no one's getting greenlit. So that and like you get inquiries now, but until you even see them even
Mhm.
like jump in, it's not going to be another what, like 6 months, minimum. Like unless they're small enough that you can do it in like 4 to 5 months. So like there's this huge gap, and like I think it's going to get way worse because this huge gap means like all those guys were doing work in the field, which means all those like small businesses that are like restaurants and like jewelers, like like it just keeps like compounding.
Yeah.
It's like don't freak out, Carly. Don't freak out, Carly. Don't freak out,
Yeah,
Carly.
you're right. Because a lot of people don't realize that, like, depending on the scales that you're doing of projects, like I have projects that are 2 years. So
Yeah,
I'm not actually getting to bank on that cash flow coming into my business for 24 months. Like the job we're just about to wrap up next month, I started it to 30, like it's going to be almost 30 months,
yeah,
right? Like, so we're like, these are like to your point, people don't recognize how long it takes for a project to happen and whether you actually end up at the end with all the same scope of work that it started with.
right. And we're like the first people get
Yeah.
notified of a new project, right? And like the guys in the field are just waiting until it's like ready to get, green lit, and no one's green lighting. And so, listen, like I would say right now, 6, 7 out of 10 designers are not don't have a full pipeline, and like
Mhm.
everything's on, a lot of projects are on ice, or they're just, things are slowly, like now that we're in spring and we're about to jump into the second quarter, like, we always see that shift in
Yeah.
mindset. So we'll see. Like it's interest it's a different market. I think that at the end of the day, it'll make like the Canadian market stronger, and
Stronger.
I do think that it'll allow us more opportunities with other countries that would normally go through the US and mark up the cost significantly, because already like they're putting their money on it. Like I think there'll be new opportunities that will come about, and like a total change in, I think, our mindset. And like,
Hmm.
I mean, listen, like the whole geopolitical landscape like art is potentially changing. which
I
is
know
like,
it's fascinating. Yeah.
it's fascinating. I mean, this is what we read about in history books, right? So
Yes.
I do think that Trump wants to be a leader that like is known throughout history. And I think that this is like just the beginning. Um, so yeah, like I think he wants to change the geopolitical landscape and like I think he wants to do it in his time and he like is sick of everything status quo and he really wants to make waves. That's my
Succeeding in that for sure this month anyway with the with
I
the
think he's
waves,
just
but
getting started. I do. I
yeah.
think like I like I try to think like, is he like, is his idols like Napoleon and like Adolf Hitler and like all these like great like leaders that were like crazy but also genius and like they weren't afraid of anything. Um so I think that it'll just make us like I think we need to gain our strength back and I think we need to um you know
Domestically made
yeah.
products and focus there for sure.
That's what he's
Yeah.
doing anyways, right? Like
Yeah.
he's trying
Yeah.
to have companies back to like, when manufacturing was done in America, like
Mm-hmm.
he wants to make
Mm-hmm.
America great again. Like,
Yeah.
and he doesn't care who it affects as long as like, it makes sense for him and his future. So
Yeah, so we all navigate around that and we'll figure it out. And we will. I mean, we're already figuring it out. You're already figuring out who to use. I don't know if you've I got a couple of emails from our reps that High Point, Canadian reps, but asked straight out, are we going to High Point? Are you guys coming to High Point this year? Just
for
trying to figure
you,
out. No. Trying to figure out who's going to need Canadian representation there, right? Because the reps all go and sit there and wait for the Canadians to walk in. And so no, we are not going to be attending. So yeah, not this year. We were going to, but we're gonna hold off for a bit
do you go
till we get
every
it.
year?
You know what? I did for a couple of years in a row, and it was too much. There wasn't enough change. It's really nice to
Right.
connect. It's really nice to see people. It's really nice to, reconnect with some of my other fellow designer friends, but it wasn't enough to warrant. It's very expensive to go because it's the middle of nowhere and you're paying very
Yeah.
inflated pricing. But I was always loved the inspiration and I always loved watching the trends and seeing what that was all about. But it just the dollar, it's an expensive couple of days.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's why
So
I can't, yeah, my Vegas trip.
yeah.
And I think you'll see, I mean, obviously a lot more designers and people, especially designers, are gonna be doing that. I think it's just gonna be interesting to see like how that affects projects that Canadians are doing in the US. Um, because now they're gonna have to go down often. They're gonna have to like, how does the purchasing and then some of that work? And then, will they get stopped, like
Right.
deported by ICE? Like,
Yeah, I
wow.
guess it's 30, only if you're there more than what, 30 days or something they were saying. But usually if we're doing a project in Florida or like it's in and out, you're in and out sometimes the same day.
Yeah,
Just get
yeah,
in, do
yeah.
what you have to do and get out, right? Now after COVID, you kind of do a night because you're never sure if you're going to get there on time or whether or whatever the case may be. But
Right.
yeah, I mean, it's so like when now you've got your finger on the pulse. So is there more concerns? Is there anything else that people are worried about designers? Is it just workflow and getting new clients, or is the tariffs the hot topic?
So tariffs is a really big topic just because I think no one knows what they're actually navigating and um it's a bit of like a like there's just no straight line. So they're just getting nervous. I mean, there's some designers that obviously do a lot of purchasing through the US. There's some designers that don't. Like it really depends, what your business model looks like. Like we do have friends that do a lot of purchases from the US. And right now they're looking at, taking off staff, minimizing hours of staff, just because they're also just kind of preparing themselves as to like what could happen. I mean, obviously they're gonna have to start rethinking who they're using. I'm finding a lot of designers are just worried about, closing projects and being able to maintain workflow, like you mentioned. Um, I'm finding a lot of designers are just worried because I will say that there are, a lot of either designers or businesses now really seriously closing their doors and like shutting down or minimizing their overhead, um, and laying off staff and being more selective to who they hire and like trying to just not have such a high monthly recurring, costs.
Sure. Yeah.
So that's
Expenses are,
happening. Yeah, we're seeing designers listen, like leave their like close down like their office and or let go of their staff and then come into the collective and get a small office or even a flex membership so that they come in with their team without for meetings with everyone and everyone works from home the other days of the week because
hmm
they're on the road so much. Because listen, like that's anywhere between what? Like if you get an office, 2,000 a month minimum plus the cost to furnish it and update it and how
heat it and air
yeah,
conditioning and all the things. Yeah.
internet and all these things, right?
Yeah.
So people are just trying to scale back, right? Scale back as much as possible. We're actually seeing a big uptick in the collective right now. Thank good, knock on wood. Um, because we're finding that the companies that don't have the overhead are starting to get busier.
hmm
And the companies that have been around for a long time and are, 50, 10 to 20 years in the industry are now either like having to like are either like thinking about shutting down or have minimized their staff or are the bigger ones that had left like about a year ago. Um, because like we're having a big shift in the industry, right? The people that whole mid client, is no longer doing projects and people are either very wealthy and like the 1% is like, still doing what they do because it has not affected them. If anything, like the 1% have actually gone richer from this. And
hmm
then, the middle and lower, tiers are now trying to minimize their costs. And so they're going with, maybe designers who are, again, less expensive, more up and coming, less overhead because and the rates reflect that. So it's this big shift in the industry. Or at least I'm
Yeah.
finding from being at the collective and seeing,
Right.
the uptick in business. And it's not just designers, like it's people in many other industries as well. Um, who are getting busier because they know have no overhead and then
Right. They can run leaner. Yeah.
yeah,
You can
they
run
can run
leaner.
lean.
So then you are really great about fostering and educating designers through the collective events. Um, how do you navigate that moving forward with is it something where you skew it more Canadian based or more domestically based? What is there any change for you there? Because you do community, you do events with vendors, would you skew it to be something that's more
Yeah, I mean, and most
educational
of our
based that
vendors
way?
are all Canadian. So like we don't work with any American vendors. Um, they're either like European or Canadian and like local and they're
Fantastic.
so it hasn't affected the collective with that. Um, yeah, no, it hasn't affected us. Like with Palm, we we work with our mills that are in either India, Nepal, or Morocco, and it just gets delivered directly to us. Another, like we do have clients in the US, so this is going to be interesting. I don't think the tariff is on rugs from Canada and the US. And like, again, like I have to really understand because
Yeah.
like we have product going from like India or Morocco to the US. There's no tariffs right now on those countries. But is it because it's a Canadian company billing an American company? Is
It's
that
origin, right? So if it's coming from its origin of manufacturing, so
so then no. So like
you
that's
should
the
be
thing
fine.
where it kind of like, yeah, I need to really understand more. And like, yeah, I mean, and again, like it's gonna change again and again and again. So
Yeah.
right now, like I'm just like, okay, like we have clients in the US, like we're launching like a new collab with another designer in the US, like we have bunch of new quotes that we just sent out. Like I'm just, you know, So and even now navigating the dollar with the US because some of our mills we do pay in the US dollars, right? So now it's going to affect the Canadian price that we're selling it at. So now all the quotes that we have out, it's just like this tumble effect, right? Try not to
Yeah.
think about it. It's
I know. And
like,
it's funny. I was talking to a designer out of California last week, and she buys all of her kitchens from a Canadian company in Canadian dollars. So with the exchange rate, even if she has to add a wee tariff on there, she is making far more money, right? Just with the exchange rate. So she's more
you,
profitable by using Canadian companies and manufacturers. Just even if they decide to tariff that, she would still be making more
right.
money. And I thought that was fascinating.
That's fascinating. So does that
Yeah.
mean, do you think that will mean that more Americans will buy Canadian? Because there's a
Well,
lot
that
of
was,
vendors in Quebec who sell to the
yeah.
US, and I was told by a few vendors that like they're a little bit screwed because they sell a lot of their product to US clients. But
So
maybe
I
it's not as
can't,
bad
if,
because
yeah.
the
Well,
dollar will just
she was
be
telling me that
different.
she was like, I just paid, and with the exchange rate on her credit card, she was more profitable. So she made extra dollars and cents just with the exchange rate.
Interesting.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. Fascinating. There's always pluses, there are always minuses. We're all figuring it out. Like everyone's in the same boat. And I think that's the beauty of chatting about it because everybody's probably feeling the same way. And if you aren't able to chit chat with other designers and you don't have something like the collective in your town or city where you can chat or have another call with somebody who's in the same industry, it can be overwhelming. You don't even know where to start. It can be scary, but we're all figuring it out. Everyone is still, working through it and finding out the next path. Like we did it all in 2020. We can do it again in 2025.
I
Persevere,
know.
resilience.
Yeah. I mean, I think it's just a lot being thrown at people, a lot of uncertainty. It's a scary time, especially if you have children and you have a
Hmm.
business and you have, you know, engagements already. It's just like there's so many balls up in the air at any given time. And I think that's where it feels very unsettling because you're just trying to find your damn groove.
All the time.
Just
And
like
that's the
let
thing.
me
We're
find the groove.
entrepreneurs. We're already all the time worried about our business and our income and our paying everybody else. And you get paid like we're always worried. We're always wearing all the hats, CEO, CFO, like we're doing all the things. So just to throw something else at us, yeah, you try to make light of it by saying it's keeping our brains working. But of course it's scary. Of course it's frightening.
Thank God for ChatGDP. A free intern. Well, not free, but like,
Yeah.
$10 a month or $20 a month yields a lot of output.
True. We use
Um,
it every day. Are you
yeah,
finding that
we
it's a
use
daily
it
thing? It has
every
to.
day.
Yeah.
We actually we hosted a workshop for designers at the collective. And it was an AI workshop learning generative AI. So like writing prompts, like
Yeah.
writing
To
words in
get what you need. Yeah.
ChatGPT and describing a space or even putting in a photo and asking it to now like create photo or a space or a design board or render something. And it was pretty amazing. It was like a 3-day course. Um, and we did like another day of just ChatGPT and like understanding ChatGPT, building our own bots,
Yeah.
um, understanding how to use Dolly, which is like their generative AI
Mhm.
tool. It was it was amazing. It was amazing.
Well, I
Yeah.
think 2 years ago when this came out, everyone was also crapping their pants. No, not to be vulgar, but like everyone was like, oh my God, this is going to take our jobs. They're going to be rendering for it. And that was 2 years ago already. You blink, it has not taken our jobs, but it's definitely aiding us in everyday, work to make us more efficient or sound more
I mean,
professional or
I think
whatever the case may be.
it's taking someone's
Well, yes. But I mean, when I started learning AutoCAD 20 some years ago, I'm sure all the draftsmen were also really upset about AutoCAD coming in and how was there going. So like there's all these things that keep coming and we get scared and it turns out that we can figure it out and stay on it. But the AI 2 years ago, I remember people talking about it and I started trying to use it and I was like, oh my God, this is terrible. It's gonna soon be doing our renderings and soon be doing, and it's not there yet. You know it's going to be, but it's not there yet. Like we're getting there. And then we get there quickly, but it's still not
I mean, honestly, like
fabulous.
there was like a bunch of tools that she showed us where you can put in an image, like a 2D drawing, and it'll render it for you, or you can put
Hmm.
in like, like it's pretty crazy what it can do for you. And it's just getting
Yeah,
smarter
for
every
sure.
day.
Yeah, the only thing I mean, if I could say, here's the fabric and put it on the chair, then I would be like, yes. But we're not there yet. Yeah, I know that's again, my age is showing because I've never worked with SketchUp. There's people here who just make that happen, right? AutoCAD was new when I was in school, just to give you context of age. That was like the newest thing was AutoCAD. And I thought I'm never going to
Well,
use this because I went from drafting everything to all of a sudden in my third year at Sheridan, where you went, I had to
yeah.
take AutoCAD courses.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And now
And I
they don't
use it
even give
every day.
courses. And
They
then now they
don't?
don't even give courses anymore on CAD. You have to come to school already knowing it.
Get
Like you have
out.
to, I swear to God, they're like, we're not like all the students that, because we've had like, Sheridan and all these different schools come through the collective, and like I've spoken to them and gone there, and it's one of the things like and we always hire interns, and one of the things is like, no, you don't, like they don't have like a studio class to learn CAD or Revit. You have to come knowing those programs, doing
Wow.
that on your own, like on your own
Hmm.
time.
Well,
Um,
see, learn something new every day. Did not
yeah,
know that.
yeah, yeah. But I don't know. It's. I think I do believe though that ChatGPT and like all these other tools, listen, they're meant to make us more efficient. They're meant to like minimize our time as much as possible.
I know. I was at a meeting 2 weeks ago, and this gentleman was talking about how he doesn't have time to read anymore. Entrepreneur. It was an entrepreneurship meeting. And so he went on to tell us that he bought a book, like an online version of the book, uploaded it to
Yeah.
ChatGPT, and then told ChatGPT to read the book for him and now apply it to his business and give him the short form of where he can do that. And instantly I was like, you just uploaded proprietary information that somebody worked really hard on that book. And now it's in this world of chat. And anyone else who just goes in and says, tell me about this book, they have everything and they can like, I don't know if people realize what they're doing too. You're feeding this information on somebody's hard earned work, and now you're taking that business away from somebody who read it. So, of course, there's all these really great things that we are using. And then there's other things where I'm like, oh, that's not cool. Like, that's terrible. Oh, sorry. Of course, it's after 5 and I didn't turn the phone off. But anyway, there's all
I
these
mean,
things that people are using it for, which sound really great. And then in my head, I don't know, again, I don't know if it's an age thing because this is a 30 something and I'm a 50-year-old woman. I'm like, oh, that's somebody's work that's now just out there for free for somebody else to, snag. So we have to now figure all this stuff out, but
there's gonna be
weird
a
and
lot
wild.
more coming, right?
Yeah, of course.
Right?
Yeah.
Like it'll be interesting when it starts hitting the schools hard, because like you don't know who's writing what and all that stuff. But we're in a interesting. This is going to be a very interesting year, and the
Maybe
next.
we circle back and do a recap later in the year and see where this fell
I
because we
know.
wanted to do this so other people felt like, they weren't alone. We're all thinking the same thing. We're all in this indifferent space of what is going to happen next with our interior design world, but none of us know. We're all in the same boat. But I'll be curious to know in 10 months what we're looking at or a year from now.
I know. What are your predictions in a year from now?
You know, I'm actually afraid to put them out in the world of what I think is going to happen, but I'm seeing so many crazy things. Again, my clients tend to be entrepreneurs. They tend to be a bit older than me, and a lot of them are talking about making some major changes. And that is something I just never, you kind of think status quo, what can change, but major, major changes. Like they're selling their homes in Florida. They are not having, the houses are for sale second home and south of the border. Like it's big changes at a very, very rapid pace. I know a lot of people who pulled all their investments out of the SP 500, me being one of them. I'm like, I'm not old enough anymore to ride it out. Like I'm not 35, I'm 50. I don't have 20, 30 years to ride it out. So it makes you change decisions. You change, I know that's not design driven, but all of these things will 100% affect a lot of things for a lot of people. I think they're going to hold tight for a while, is what I think is going to end up happening for my
I
ideal
think
client. That's my client because they're entrepreneurs, right? But if you have somebody might have clients that are all, executives or, guaranteed a paycheck on Friday. But my ideal client has always been the entrepreneur who doesn't have the time.
yeah.
So for me, it's affecting that.
So
How
you
about
think
you?
that do you think though that they're taking that money out and reinvesting it into either another country or back
Gold.
into
I've heard a
Canada?
lot of gold. I've heard a lot of gold.
Gold.
I've heard a lot of gold. Again, I know
Really?
nothing. This is not my forte, but I've heard a lot
Wow,
of,
that's
yeah.
scary. That's scary.
Yeah. But again, this is talk, right? So
I know, but
who knows if
these are
someone's
the people
actually
that like
doing
have
these
been
things or if
through
they're
it.
just yapping, right?
These are the people that have
Yeah.
been through it. It's like going back to that communist like mindset, where like people built, vaults in the basement. So like because they, you know what I mean? Like, yeah, because gold is something that you can trade, right? Like when money
Hmm.
has no,
Tangible.
yeah, like I mean, I know like during World War II, like when not the Nazis, um, and like in Europe came, a lot of Jews hid and like, you know, transferred their money into gold and then buried it in the backyards and then came and dug it out, and some obviously never returned and like dug it out because it had worth on the like in the black market, right? In the underground market. So it's interesting that you're saying that, or they're saying that. My prediction,
I know. You're like,
my
who's
predictions are
listening?
also crazy. I do think that like I do think that like the global, like the geopolitical seat, like situation will completely diversify. And I think that like I wouldn't be surprised if like US, Russia, and Canada, I mean US, Russia, and China like start their own um, you know, organization. And Canada and Europe and UK become much stronger in terms of like their
Mhm.
geopolitical stances. I do think that Canada export will minimize and like their import will minimize and like they'll I think that Canada will actually start to build a backbone again. Um yeah, I think the middle class are being pushed more and more and more out of the city, and right now I think it's just going to get worse. Yeah.
Yeah. I will tell you this was interesting. I have family in other countries, as does my husband in Europe. And we were talking this weekend and they said, "What is going on in your country?" Because the news that they hear and what we hear is very different. And so you have to just do your own due diligence. You have to decide what you're going to take at face value. And social media should not be it because my children in their 20s, they come down from their bedrooms for dinner and they tell me this stuff that's like, that's not true. That's not true. Like, you got to do your own due diligence. You have to do your own research. You have to figure out what is the truth and what isn't the truth. And you need to look around to do it. And that is what has been the most shocking for me in the last week is talking to family members elsewhere. And the news is very different in Europe than it is here, or very different in, I know we all know the US and Canada, very different perspectives, but that was something I was not prepared for. So I thought that
It's
was
a big
interesting, which
thing.
allowed me down a rabbit hole of I need to do my own looky loos. Well, and my father, I bought my dad one of these like services that he can watch. My father, my mother, my father are Irish, and so my dad watches all of the Irish sports on this like channel thing that I buy him every year for Father's Day so that he can watch all the sports on the weekend. And one of those things is you can watch the news. So when I was there on the weekend, I said, "Can we just I'd like to see what they're like after having this conversation. I just want to see." So, but you can't turn that on here or you can't Google it. So you have to figure out ways that I don't know, I'm sure the younger crowd can figure out something, but just do your own due diligence. I think that's always the key, right? Make decisions for yourself with educating yourself, not just listening to others or not just, getting down the rabbit hole of being scared. Like do your own due diligence, because I think that's when you actually will sit better with whatever you're thinking and navigating as as your career and as an entrepreneur, and maybe you're a mom or whatever the case may be. Just do your own research and figure it out for yourself so you feel better about it, because I know we all go to bed worried every night, regardless of if your business is soaring or your business might be a little slow. We're always worried. So to add this into the layer, nobody needs it. Nobody needs this extra layer. So I know that's a pretty Debbie Downer way to end this, and that wasn't the goal. The goal was to make people feel like, we're all in this together. Everyone's navigating the same waters, and we are. But I think it's like anything, just do your own, do your own research, educate yourself, just like you would do the deep dive into your business, do the deep dive into, what's happening in our world. As scary as it is.
A lot of scary things. A lot of scary things.
So on that not positive note, Carly, where can everybody listening find you, find the collective, all the great things that you're doing for our community? And I'll stop being so negative.
It's hard. It's a hard topic. So you can find us at thecollectiveto.com, and check us out, or on Instagram, the Collective TO. Or if you want to check out, we have our beautiful luxury custom modern rugs, which we're right now starting to launch like different series. That can be found at palm.ca. So it's PAUM.ca, or on our Instagram, Palm at the Collective. And thank you for having me. Thank you.
Lots of places to find you. Thank you for your time today. I appreciate it and all your expertise.
Yeah, no, it was I feel like I'm gonna go home and like meditate in my car.
I know, right? You need to decompress now. It was supposed to be like, look at us, camaraderie, but
I know. I've been meditating a lot actually lately.
Good girl.
So that
helps clear the mind.
It does. It cleans you out and puts you at like total peace for like a good 15 minutes, and then you're back to reality.
I was just thinking wine, but two very different things. I might need a glass of wine after this. But meditating is probably way smarter.
It's a really heavy topic, right? It's a really heavy topic, and like the sky is falling, and the sky is like, it's
still blue out there. So let's try and stay positive. And I just know that there's got to be a lot of designers out there that are feeling the same way as us. And it's sometimes just nice to recognize that there's other people feeling the same way. And regardless if there's no solution here, it's just we're all feeling it. And I think that's the key. So
yeah. I'm gonna go tomorrow and vent about it on stage.
Yeah. Well, I will let you get back to your day. Thank you for being part of this. I appreciate it.
Oh, thank you, Laura. I appreciate it too. And I'll see you this week.
Yeah.